And there was definitely songs when I first heard the album, I was like, hey, it's good, but it's not great. Now I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh, this song's actually better than I thought. Because when I first listened to this album, I had a show with another podcast, and they asked my opinion about it. And I think I gave it like a 7.2 out of 10. And that was where I had to listen to it again today and say, is my opinion still that this album is a 7.2, or is it better? Now,
is this Radar Magazine 7.2, or is this Stereo Gum?
This is this is enemy.com.
Okay, there we go. All right.
There you go.
Not that Rolling Stone bullshit.
Yeah, fuck them. That's a whole nother. We can have a whole conversation. I'll let me and Brian handle that with our show. But so I had to think of myself: is this album still a 7.2 today than it was when I first listened to it? And then the other question was, just to give relevance of how I rate the albums, I would say Pearl Jam's 10 is a 10 for me. To me, it's the most perfect album. I love it to death. It all flows well, and it's just a beautiful introductory to the band. The Vitology is like an 8.8, and I think Yield was like a 9.1. I think that's my top 3. What's the matter with you?
8 for
you got it. You have to remember.
I don't know you.
Wait, the way that you have to remember though. There's a lot of fillers. There's a lot of filler songs on there that, when rated, they average out differently. That's how it works. That's how my math works. So sue me. I don't know what the fuck to tell you. So, when you first heard this album, mine was a 7.2. What would you give it on a scale of 1 to 10 when you first heard it? Not right now, but when you first heard it.
Slightly higher. Maybe like 7.5, 7.6.
Okay.
It was. I liked it quite a bit better than the last album.
Yep.
It's interesting. Hall and I were driving back from somewhere, maybe Tri-Cities or something, and I think I threw Gigaton on, and I think I skipped through a couple songs.
Wow.
And that's rare that I do that. And it was like almost like subconsciously, I just sort of like, eh. And then Holly, I think he's like looked at me at one point and was like, "No, I don't like that one." I'm like, ah. And I don't remember I'll be honest, I don't remember what song it was. Maybe it wasn't feeling it, whatever. I was like, trying to go back and listen to it. And I don't really find myself doing that with the new album at all. So I would probably rate it a little higher today than I did, back in the first month. I will also say, not for any particular reason, but I have not just dived into and listened to this album on a daily basis in any way, shape, or form. And I can't tell you that I'm avoiding it. I can tell you that it's probably more out of I get so used to listening to KEXP.
Mm-hmm.
I recognize that there's so much music out there to appreciate that, in my lifetime, I'm going to get to hear 2% of. And you almost have to rely on a radio station like that to give you that. And so I find myself listening to that rather than, or playlists that my, friend Matt sends me. He sends me these great Spotify playlists with bands I've never heard of, and I'll discover a bunch of great new stuff that way. But I find myself listening to more of that than just, whereas the first, 10 Pearl Jam albums, it was like 3 months straight after each album, at least. In the first 4 albums or 5 albums,
Now, let me ask you a question, Trey, with that statement. Is it because of the fact that it's the music that's coming out now that's the reason why you're not listening to it more?